begin our record session. Like I said, you'll be able to have access to the recording of this by email request afterwards. This is one of our first sessions on mastering the art of resume writing. Typically, for some of those who've participated in mastering the art of the job search, we talk a little bit about um, how to go about job search strategies. This here is going to be talking about developing your resume and kind of preparing for your job search, right? So more of the prelude to some of the activities you would do in mastering the job hunt there. I had a question about the chat, so you will be able to have a general chat to everyone at the end during the Q&A. So today we will be covering the topics just briefly about my background, why I talk about the subject, why is it, why is a good resume essential? What is the purpose of a resume? What are the key sections of a resume, which are common to most of you all, but want to kind of go over what the details look like, and then what it means to tailor your resume, and then again, some of the final tips for success. What are some of the things that you can do to try to get ahead or above? Head and shoulders above the crowd, right, of some of the other job applicants out there. So first off, my name is Demetrius. I with Career Clarity. I'm a career guide or career coach, where I work with individuals to get into their ideal role and prep for their long-term financial security in whatever career field that they choose to be in. I started working with individuals in their job during my time of recruitment, working with some of the larger recruitment firms, including Randstad, S3, and Oscar, which are international recruitment firms, mostly placing scientists, researchers, and also working in manufacturing logistics. So working in warehouses, drivers, people working with machinery, some of the roles that I did there which developed my interest in helping people in the job search. In my spare time, I do something called Authentic Relating, which for many of you all, it's just an interpersonal workshop where we teach people to interact with each other um, and build rapport quickly, right? And then as a HR generalist, I took some time to hire, train, and onboard different people, right? So I've got the opportunity to sit on multiple sides of the hiring process. As an authentic relating facilitator, I've been able to work and build and cultivate relationships with individuals and strangers. And the reason I bring that up is because the job process, no matter how many um, machines are involved, it's still a human process at the end of the day, right? So for you all, I want you all to still remember that no matter how many rejection emails that are automatic or that you seem like you're talking to a brick wall, you're still dealing with people at the end of the day. We want to make sure we take that into consideration as we prepare for our job search. So our job search, which we're not going to go over all these steps today because it's a very long explanation of everything. But really, our job search really looks like career clarity, preparation, outreach and research, and then application and follow-up, right? Some of the things that we talk about. So when we talk about career clarity, we really discuss what it means to understand our strengths and this is really a time when we have self-reflection questions, right? So it's what environment do I work best in? What kind of people do I work best around? What kind of leadership or guidance am I best? Do I grow under, right? And then some more questions. What does work-life balance look like for me, right? And what are my strengths, right? Are you more of a people person? Are you someone that's really good with systematic things, right? Some of the questions we ask in this stage, and then we kind of move on to what we call kind of defining career goals, right? So if you're wanting to be a CEO of, one of the top five Fortune 500 companies, and then at the same time you want to spend 90% of your time on the beach, right? Those two goals at the same time obviously conflict, right? So we want to make sure that our goals are aligned with our work-life balance and that they also fit into our overall life goals, right? So our career goals are part of our financial goals, our social goals, our familial goals as well, right? And so in this stage, we really want to get a general idea of what we're moving towards so that we don't find ourselves in a position later on that we no longer like or didn't really fit us to begin with, right? So very often I see people change careers after 3 to 5 years, and they're like, "Oh, I actually really didn't like this at all," right? So those are some of the things that we want to be mindful of in the career clarity stage. And then this time as well, we'll do a lot more research on different organizations, right? So you'll start to look at potential industries, what their culture looks like, what their financial opportunity looks like as well. And so a part of the stage that we'll talk about today, right, is really preparing for our job search. So what does it mean to prepare for our job search? It just means that we have all the tools that we need up front to successfully conduct a job search. And really that means what we'll talk about today, an updated resume, a LinkedIn profile, references, calculating runway, and then creating a cover letter, right? So when we talk about a resume, we'll go in depth today about why we have a resume. We just want to make sure our resume is up to date and it really does a good job of reflecting who we are and what our experience is. And at the end of the day, should really demonstrate our value. Our LinkedIn, which has come out recently in the last, couple of decades, really gives people the opportunity to not only see us, see our projects, see our skill set, and see our network, but it's a great place for us to search for jobs, to showcase who we are and what we're capable of doing. And then our references, oftentimes, especially in recruitment, all the hiring managers that we worked with requested references. I don't know if they always check them, but they would always request that you had 3 to 5 professional references, really just highlighting someone that has worked above you or someone that can talk about your work, usually from a managerial or supervisor position, and really talk about the value that you brought to the company and get a feel for if you're a good worker or not, right? It's a reference. So they want to see if you are someone they should hire, right? So for you, it's really important that you have these people in mind, that you start the process of getting your references up front. I've seen so many candidates kind of get to a stage of interviewing and then they find themselves not having these tools or having the reference and that being a hiccup for them and causing them a lot of stress. So for you, it's a really huge relief to make sure you have that up front. Another thing that we talk about in the preparation stage, right? For a lot of people is just calculating runway. So what does it mean to calculate runway? Really, it's just, okay, how long can I effectively job search? And I don't have to like do anything else. I don't need another job. I don't need like a contract, a loan, or anything like that, right? So a lot of people usually underestimate how long a job search will take. Some assume it'll be 2 weeks or a month, and they're like, "Oh, I'll get into another role tomorrow," right? But realistically, especially in this economy, our job searches can go up to 3 months, 6 months. I just read an article yesterday talking about a year for a lot of people getting into a new role, right? So our goal here is obviously to shorten our job search as much as possible using techniques, networking, and different modalities. But we need to be prepared for the possibility of our job search to be long. And so it's important for us to make sure that we are calculating how much we need, how long we can effectively do a job search, and when will we need to maybe take a transitional job, which is a job that's temporary but allows us to actually prolong our job search. When do we need a part-time job, or do we need to take like a contract role, right? Or use like a job like Fiverr or Upwork, where we do very small jobs for people to kind of keep ourselves afloat, right? So it depends on where you are. So it's calculating runway. And then lastly is just our cover letter. So a lot of you write a cover letter specifically to an organization. I usually have a master draft that I change for different roles. Right now, we're in a very unique time. You can use a lot of tools like artificial intelligence tools like ChatGPT or Cloud AI to help create an outline and take away a lot of the long nights and hours of drafting and writing these cover letters, right? But these are key things to have. So I would keep in mind and reflect and make a little checklist. Do I have all these things? Are they up to date? And are they up to my standard for the job search, right? So first off, I want to talk about who sees your resume, right? So a lot of the people that I talk to and that I work with, they write a resume and they're not always sure who their audience is, right? So your resume is going to usually involve a number of people. Excuse me. One, your resume usually hits a machine, right? Depending on the size of the company and who's running the job search. Most of the time, companies have streamlined this process using what they call an applicant tracking system. And this machine really reviews resumes and does a number of things, right? Secondly, or sometimes the first thing it hits, right, is a recruiter, right? So an internal recruiter, like Amazon, some larger companies and mid-sized companies have internal recruiters who are actively searching for people. I worked as an external recruiter, right? So I was proactively searching for people for a number of different companies. And so we would use the resumes that we got from applicant tracking systems to kind of verify if someone was good for a role. Next, human resources, which you all know about, the hiring manager who actually you'll work under, and then sometimes upper management will be giving your resume as well. So the reason why I bring up the audience when we talk about resume writing is that you need to keep in mind, am I writing my resume in a way that all of these people can understand and that they easily can see what I do in my work, right? So out of this whole list, only like one or two of these people actually know what your job is or how your job functions exactly, whereas everyone else just kind of does something else, but they're helping with the job process, right? Like the hiring manager knows exactly what your role should be like and what your work should look like. The rest of these people are just using your resume and looking for like keywords and different things like that to see if it fits the job description. So we want to make sure that we keep that in mind as we're developing our resume. So when we talk about resume writing, you're going to hear a lot about applicant tracking systems. And it's not some big scary thing, right? It's really just systems that are used by many organizations to make their candidate search an easier process, right? So they're able to just post jobs on multiple job boards through this tool or this technology, right? The applicant tracking system scans all the resumes and looks for relevant words, skills, and different experience levels, right? And so, like on LinkedIn, for example, I would see resumes and I'd have 100 resumes sent to me, but it would only say that it would send me like 10, maybe 10 that were actually qualified. And be like, oh, only these 10 had the keywords, the experience, and whatever you were looking for, right? So the rest of these 90 really just are not good resumes or not ideal for this role, right? So that comes to the ranking and shortlisting, right? So really the whole process is to save hiring managers, recruiters, human resource individuals time so that they don't need to actually read 100 resumes. They could just look and be like, okay, these ones are the top things, right? So the applicant tracking system, we just want to keep in mind that this machine and how it functions, right? Which basically is just really looking for the exact things that a job description requires of you, right? So it's not something that's a huge it's not intended to kick you out of the process. It's intended to get you into the process if you're qualified, but sometimes can cause some trouble for individuals. So really basically we want to talk about what goes into a resume, right? So for you all, we usually know, right, our contact information, our professional summary, our skills, our work experience, our education, our certifications, and our you can put volunteer experience, and sometimes people put passions, right, or hobbies, right? It depends on your industry, how social or connected people are in that industry if they want to know those kind of things, right? But usually it's we keep it to the basics. So when we talk about our contact information, really just talking about your name, probably a good way to contact you, like your email. Sometimes you can put your phone number. It depends on, how accessible you want to be. I don't usually, always call someone from their resume. Usually in the application process, you'll get someone's number as well. But you can put your number and then you put just your zip code. I see a lot of people as I edit resumes still put their whole address on their resume, which I would never put my whole address on a resume, mainly because your resume sometimes can be seen by hundreds of people, especially working with external recruiters. They pass your resume on quite a bit. So for your own kind of privacy, you want to kind of just keep your zip code on there. So our contact information, right, is just our zip code. It's going to be maybe a link to our LinkedIn if you have one. It's going to be our email and it can be our number as well if you want people to contact you in that way, right? Next, we go into a professional summary, which we'll break down a little bit more next. Then we have our skills section, and then we have our work experience, our education, and our certifications can be a part of our education, right? It's just really what do we know? What have we done to develop our skills in this specific area? So before we jump in deeper, I just want to offer something I give to people on our webinars, which is just a resume and LinkedIn review bundle, right? Where I create a personalized 10 to 15-minute video reviewing your LinkedIn, your resume, kind of going over everything that you can adjust to fix so that you're more appealing to recruiters, hiring managers, and people of the such. We have a lamp list, which is really just a job search list that comes in an Excel form that you can fill out and customize to your job search. Next, we have a resume building prompt, which is just an AI prompt list, which helps you build your resume easier by typing in the right things, because your AI tools are only as good as you can utilize them. And then lastly, it comes with just a 30-minute personalized Q&A, which I'll answer your questions about your job search and things of that nature. So feel free to utilize that if you're wanting to get ahead in your job search, or you just want to set up a time to talk. There are options for that later on as well. So, what does an effective resume do, right? Why is a good resume essential? So, a resume, right, is going to be one of our first lines of interaction with most companies, right? Unless a recruiter is going on your LinkedIn and finding you, your resume really is one of the first ways they see you, right? So it can be the thing that makes or breaks your initial interaction or making a good first impression, right? A good resume does a large portion of our personal branding, right? It talks about who we are, what we're capable of doing, and things of that nature, right? So when we look at these things, right, we see that there is a sense of like we're creating value, right? So a good resume, right? If I look at someone's resume, I see their achievements, I see their years of experience, the skills that they have. I go from zero value that I attribute to them, like I don't know anything about what they do or what they're capable of, to 100% of giving them value, are much higher on the spectrum, right? And the benefits of having a good resume is that it makes your interview easier the better your resume looks and the more experience you have, right? So, because if you go in with everything that they want, then they're already bought into what you can do, right? And so you want to use your resume as a good script and something that you can utilize to move through your interview process. So oftentimes you'll be like, oh yeah, like as I mentioned on my resume, this is what I did in this specific place. This is what I was able to achieve. And you kind of elaborate on those things, kind of use it as a board to bounce off of and to keep on track in your interviews. So I want to talk about a professional summary. I've edited quite a bit of resumes even this last month, right? A lot of people don't have a professional summary. I usually recommend it, right? Because what it helps individuals do is to create context of your overall work, right? So if you just have your work experience, we don't necessarily understand how this all fits into your desired role or what your overall career goals look like, right? So a good professional summary does a good job of making your resume niche, targeting a specific position or industry by saying like, hey, I have several years and I'm looking for this specific role, and these are my skills attributed to that role. Uh, a professional summary usually is only about 3 to 4 lines, can maybe be like, 5 sentences, probably the max I would probably put on a professional summary. Excuse me. And really, what we're looking to do is highlight your overall experience, right? So, as a whole, right? So, I have 10 years of experience, I have 5 years of experience, I have 2 years of experience working customer service, sales, and, whatever kind of things. And this is what I've been able to achieve. And these are some of the skills that I utilize, right? So we really want to give a snapshot and we want to give a taste of what you're capable of doing. So people are enticed, right? It's one of the first things people read. So that, oh, okay, this person's done a lot. They've achieved quite a bit. Like I want to go through and read more of their resume, right? So an example, you say creative marketing professional, 5 years of experience driving growth through data-driven strategies. Really simplistic, I kind of start to a professional summary, but you can write it however you like, but you just want to make it so that it's appealing. It shows really a quick snippet of your capabilities as a whole. So that does not mean the picture, but this is just an example of a professional summary that I just captured off a resume website as well, right? And this person really just does a good job of highlighting, okay, I have, 8 years of sales experience across multiple industries. They talk about some of the sales things that they do. They have good abilities and maintain, product knowledge, right? So very simplistic, professional summary. What I get from this, right, is that this person has quite a bit of experience in sales with multiple industries, that they are well versed in their products and things of that nature. Your own professional summary can be a little bit more specific, maybe even have more keywords. If you have a lot of experience in a specific industry, you may even want to have what we call an achievement section, right? So instead of a professional summary, you may want to talk about a list of projects or achievements that you've had, right? So if I've been in sales for 15 years, I can say, hey, I've brought over, $2 million into this specific company. I've led this many projects. I've brought this many products or marketed this many products into completion, or whatever your specific industry, you can really create just a snapshot of your achievements, right? When you look at a lot of like sports players, right? And for those who may know, there's a guy, LeBron James plays in the NBA here for those who aren't in the United States. So LeBron James, he plays basketball, right? But what he would say is, I've scored over 40,000 points, right? I've won 6 championships. I've been on several all-star teams, right? And I've been to the Olympics 5 times, right? So those are achievements, right? And they're very powerful statements because they're things that we have actually accomplished and things that we have directly impacted in our career. So next to your professional summary, an achievement section can be really great if you want to replace it with that. So next, I want to talk briefly about a skills section, right? So our skills section, in short, really is just a list of our capabilities, the work that we're able to do, and a that we've been able to do, and some of the things that we've learned throughout our time in the market. So our skills break down into two things, really, right? Or just technical skills, and then we have soft skills. So our technical skills, for example, we could say, I know how to use Microsoft Office, Microsoft Excel. I know how to use Salesforce or customer resource management tools, right? Those are technical skills. When I talk about soft skills, you can say, hey, I am a good communicator, I'm a dynamic leader, or I am a active listener, right? So these are soft skills. So we have like hard skills, softer skills, right? So in this section, we want to make sure that our skills align with the job requirements, right? So when we go back to talking about applicant tracking systems, most job descriptions are going to have very unique terminology for what they do and what kind of skills they want you to have, right? It's going to be in their expectation section of their or in their job description. So for you, we want to make sure that you have gone through different job descriptions and make sure that your skills section aligns with the job that is posted, right? So if you have all the right words, your resume will be very high on an applicant tracking system list, right? Because it improves your visibility. So this helps you pass through those systems and those filters, right? And the more skills you have, the more dynamic and just the more stable you look like, right? If I look like I have 20 skills in this specific industry, it just looks better than not having any at all, right? So when we're creating a skills section, we want to like mention very specific tools, programs, or techniques, right? So depending on your industry, you may have very specific tools. If I'm working in a factory, maybe I know how to use a forklift, a CNC machine. Maybe I know certain safety protocols. Different things like that are going to be industry specific skills that you want to talk about, right? If I'm in marketing, right, maybe I know how to do LinkedIn or Google Ads, or different modalities next to marketing. So those are very niche to your skill set, right? You can also include your expertise, right? You can say beginner, intermediate, or advanced, right? It's not always necessary, but it can be helpful if you are advanced to be like, oh, I know this very well, right? There's multiple ways to do that on your resume. And then we'll highlight, like I said earlier, the skills that directly match the job description. And then if you have a number of skills, take the time to organize your skills in categories, right? So if you have technical skills or computer skills, you may say all these are all of my like systems or computer skills here. These are all of my marketing skills listed here, right? And these are my soft skills that I'm very well versed in, you know? So that's really the benefit of creating categories. And then we want to create very relevant, like I said, industry terms, and then match the language or a job posting. So that's our skills section. If you see here, you'll see that this person created just basic categories related to like machine learning, right? So we say, okay, this is their data visualization tools. As a recruiter, this is extremely easy and palatable. It's very easy to digest because I can look and see like, okay, well, what are their platform skills? I'm like, okay, oh, they have AWS, right? Or okay, they also know how to do TensorFlow, right? So this is very easy and palatable for someone to look at and absorb, right? So for you, you want to take into consideration, is your skills section look like this, or is it easy to read? And is it specific, right? This is very specific. And if a company's looking for you to know something, this will be very clear for them. So next, I wanted to go into our work experience, right? So for most of you all have work experience, right? A year, 6 months, 20 years, right? And we talk about what what have you done? What have you been able to accomplish in your role, right? So for us here, right, we want to first, one of the biggest mistakes I see when I'm rewriting resumes or working with individuals is that most people go through and just list all their role responsibilities, right? And so it sounds exactly like their job description. So they'll be like, "Oh, I do marketing, or I send emails, or I work on a cross-functional team," right? And so for you all, we want to make sure that you're not just regurgitating what your job description says. We want to know what you did, but we also want to know what your impact is on your work, right? What makes you different than someone else who works in your exact same position in the company, right? What did you contribute to the role? So one of the things I tell people to remember, we want to think about context, responsibilities, and accomplishments, right? So, what is the context of my work, right? So a lot of people are like, "Oh, I send emails and I talk to people and I do sales," but I'm like, "What's the point, right?" So instead, if I'm like, "Hey, I work for a Fortune 500 company that sells like, electric car chargers," and my team works B2B, so we work with businesses directly to mass sell these chargers. That makes the rest of the things you say as your responsibilities clear, right? Because I'm like, I understand why that person's doing that work, right? And then we talk about accomplishments or what you've been able to do in your time, right? So if we're looking at that, right, we're like, okay, I've sold over, I've added over 20 contracts or 20 different customers. I've been able to sell over 1,000 units of these chargers in my time here, and I've been awarded top sales rep for the last like 2 years, right? Obviously, a lot of your accolades may not be that big or whatever, but you just want to be able to show what you've been able to do in your role. And then lastly, I want you all to get really good at quantifying your experience with different metrics and accomplishments, right? So similarly, okay, if you're a teacher, we want to say, okay, we want to quantify, your I don't know, pass rate, like how many kids you've been able to work with, right? Or how many classes have you overseen? How many case plan or like curriculum have you helped to create, right? And maybe those aren't the best metrics for a teacher because I'm not a teacher, but we want to see like how are you able to really show your impact? And numbers often speak louder than just other words, right? Because it gives context, right? You could say, I made the company a lot of money, right? Or you could say, I made the company $10 million through like this project, right? So there's a much powerful ability to do that when you're able to quantify those things. For you, you want to be able to see what ways to quantify your industry. Using tools like ChatGPT, Cloud AI, or Gemini AI can be really good to help brainstorm those kind of things, right? If you don't readily know off the top of your head. So those are very valuable tools to help you quantify and show your impact on your resume. So we see here, right? So this is an example. So this person here, okay, I'm like, what did they do? Okay, so they collaborated with multidisciplinary product development teams to identify performance improvement opportunities and integrate trained models. Okay, and then we go into their responsibilities. So they researched, developed, and evaluated SOTA deep learning models. Okay, also prototype machine learning applications, and then develop machine learning pipeline, right? And then it kind of goes into the tools that they used and doesn't necessarily quantify a lot of the things, but we have some of the numbers that they utilize here, right? So really, if I am able, one of the what we call litmus tests to seeing if your resume is palatable, right? Because one of the things that we talked about before was who looks at your resume. So who looks at our resume? An applicant tracking system, recruiter, hiring manager. Can I give my resume to someone and can they tell me what I did in the role, right? So if you give your resume to a friend or even a stranger and they read your work experience and they're like, oh yeah, I saw that you worked here doing these three things and this is what you were able to accomplish, then you know you have a very clear resume and that's palatable for those who are reading, right? Because you want to make your resume easy enough to digest for everyone, but technical enough for your hiring manager to know how well you do your role. So that's a little bit about work experience there. So we also want to look to just tailor our resume. So you're going to find that you're going to be applying to a number of companies, right? So some people I've talked to, they've applied to over 100, 150 companies, right? And they're sending pretty much the same resume to every company, which, obviously it's an easier thing to do. But for the benefit of you all, we want to make sure that we are taking the keywords, taking the time to read through our job description and make minor tweaks to certain roles so that we appear higher on the applicant tracking system and that we also are able to effectively stand out, right? Whereas using a general resume most of the time doesn't help with that process. We also want to highlight certain experience types for one job versus other jobs, right? So we want to pull out the exact experience if you have it, right? If you have a history of working in schools or being a teacher, you obviously want to bring that experience to the forefront. But if you don't have that experience, you want to use what we call transferable skills. So when are times that you've taught people, right? Or when are times that you've done classroom management? Or when are times that you've had to develop curriculum? You want to pull that experience out of your other jobs and then write and highlight them in your work experience, right? So these will look completely different depending on what kind of job you're applying for, right? If they're slightly different companies or roles. Same thing with your summary and skills section. When we talked about our professional summary earlier, we want to make sure that we customize our professional summary as much as possible so that it fits a company like a glove, right? You want them to think, oh, this person was made for this role, right? Obviously, you don't have a lot of time. You don't want to spend hours doing that, but just take, 10 to 15 minutes to do that for the roles that you apply for. And then lastly, you want to tailor your achievements, right? If we know that a company wants you to do sales or they want you to do marketing, you want to be like, oh, I successfully built this Instagram page up, or I was successfully ran this email campaign, right? So you want to maybe highlight different achievements depending on your specific job you're applying for as well. So tailoring your resume is going to be great, right? It's like getting your clothes tailored, right? It fits better. And for companies, they think that you may fit better once you take the time to really show and demonstrate what you do specifically. So some of the final tips I wanted to go over, right, is just to keep your resume 1 to 2 pages, right? For those who are usually past 3 years of experience, you're usually going to have maybe a 2 page resume. I would avoid writing anything three plus, right? And that's in the US. For those who are not in the US currently, I know that other countries have different lengths, 3 page resumes, 5 page resumes. In the US, this is very specific. Most of the time, your resume should be 1 to 2 pages. Usually, the hiring managers take about, less than a minute to review your resume, right? So that's the reason why we say technical writing is going to be a very important aspect of how your resume is developed, right? Because technical writing really is how do you control the way that someone is reading a document, right? So the way that you use bullets, the way that you highlight and bold different things helps to bring their focus on certain experience and certain skills or certain categories. So technical writing is great. That's why formatting resumes is important. It's not just putting the stuff in there, but it's exactly about like how did you write it to begin with, so does it look good? For those of you utilizing things like Grammarly, ChatGPT or Cloud AI can help form like not format, but really just like give you an outline or base to your resume, right? So it can save you a lot of time because in your job search, I don't want you to spend hours of your time. I have people, spending 30 hours writing their resume, and it becomes a huge barrier to them, and they don't actually ever really start their job search, right? Um, and so for you, you want to either have someone else write your resume. If you know it's going to take you 10 hours and your time is worth, I don't know, $30 an hour, $25 an hour, you can spend, 4 hours of your time, like spend $100 and just have someone do your resume professionally while you focus on other things. So I want you to really maximize your energy and delegate where you need to delegate. And then also one of the things is just consistently update your resume. On every webinar, I know a number of people who were surprisingly laid off, right? So we want to make sure that you are always prepared for things to happen in your career. And that's why consistently updating your resume, updating your LinkedIn, and other things like that are going to help you just to stay on your toes and keep an eye out, right? So these are very just important and general tips that we want to look at there. So I wanted to open the floor up for just a Q&A and see if anyone had any questions that you can put into the chat. Is everyone still there? We still on? Do we have any questions? All right. It looks like, oh, there we go. So I'm curious, Roberta, I'm curious about what you said in the last webinar about enjoying the job search. Um, so enjoying the job search, right? In short, we don't we want to make sure and we want to be mindful that our job search isn't sucking the life out of us, and it's not coming from a place of pure stress or pure exhaustion, right? What I see a lot of the times is that the people, by the time they start working with me, they're so burnt out, and their mentality about their job search is so, you could say toxic because they've received so much rejection. They're really afraid about where they are financially, and so it makes their job search so much harder, right? So oftentimes it's really important that our mentality about our job search, obviously is serious, right? We need money, we need to provide for ourselves, our family, we have long-term goals, but at the same time, we want to take the opportunity to know that this is an opportunity for us to experience meaningful work, to be a part of an amazing culture, to work with amazing people, right? And to really enjoy what you do on the day in and day out. There are so many people out there that really enjoy the work that they do and they enjoy the work that they do it with, right? So for you, we want to make sure that our focus is not on the rejection, but really on the opportunity or that we're getting closer to the thing that we really want to do. And that our job search is always propelling us towards that place where we are enjoying. I'm like, oh, could I see myself there, right? Oh, what would it be like? Okay, do I want to travel for work? Do I want to help with this product? How am I impacting this community, right, with these services, right? And that's kind of it's a helpful thing for us to keep in mind, right? Is that our job search should be great, right? It's kind of like dating shouldn't be like sad or depressing, right? You're like, oh, I'm actually you're enjoying meeting people, talking about yourself and interacting with people in different ways. Does that make sense? So that mentality is important because you want to avoid burnout and you don't want to enter in your job search already thinking you're going to strike out or thinking that you're going to land yourself in a place that's worse off. You very much can land in a place that's t twice as good as you were before, right? I've seen it happen quite a bit. So there's so many different companies and opportunities out there. So Angela, can recruiters and hiring managers tell if you've used ChatGPT or AI to format your resume? I think that there are tools to check if your resume is written by AI, right? There are also tools for you to rewrite things that come from ChatGPT. So you can type in a like a AI scrambler and it rewrites the text so it doesn't look like it came from ChatGPT or it's not traceable, right? But for you, a hiring manager isn't going to probably take time out of their day to check to see if your resume was written by you or not, especially if they're only reading your resume for about 10 seconds. Sometimes you can read a document and tell that it sounds too polished in a way that doesn't sound like human or personal, which is why I say you can use ChatGPT as an outline, but I would never copy and paste ChatGPT over to a document and send it to someone because it's not me personally, it's not how I talk, that's not how I sound, but I use it to inform my opinion. So there are tools to scramble things you get from ChatGPT. I always talk about editing those things. It's a very good assistant tool. I personally, at this moment, wouldn't use it 100% to do all of my writing, right? Without reviewing or trusting the process. So I usually use, like a 10 or 12, for J, a 10 or 12 size font. Like, is it Calibri? Is usually a font that I'll use. Times New Roman or some of the like classic ones, right? So your font can vary. There's a list that are gonna seen as appropriate, right? I'm never gonna have like above probably 12, a 12 font, depending, obviously for my titles and things like that, right? So those things are really subjective, and you want to keep them in a range, but they're not things that are going to be massive like issues. There are a lot of options or flexibility in your font and things like that. I've never had a specific issue with that, like with ATS or someone looking at a resume. A hiring manager has never been like, oh, they were good, but I hated the font that they used, right? So it's usually not the case. We have Chadney, who has a direct message. I have over 10 years of experience. I tried to reduce my resume length, but it's still 3 pages. I've switched multiple organizations. So usually your resume usually covers the last 7 to 10 years, right? So we really want to keep our resume concise as much as possible. So really having our most recent experience highlighted or the experience for this role. So there's several types of resumes, right? You have chronological resumes really that go in order of the time that you've worked. You have skill-based resumes that are really just pulling out your specific skills for that company. So they may not be in chronological order, but they'll be like, oh, I have several years working here doing this, and over here I have another year doing this exact same thing, right? So you can play around and you don't need to necessarily have everything. The beauty of your LinkedIn is that your LinkedIn actually captures and can capture everything else. So that's always helpful there, right? Um, Let me know if that answers your question. So you can usually fit things down, and I usually can look at a resume and be like, that doesn't need to be on there. And you can usually see that what things are necessary and not necessary as of right now in your job search. Jay had another question. Is a photo of a candidate required always? I very rarely see photos of candidates, right? I don't personally put my photo on my resume. I think I look very handsome or attractive, but I just usually don't think that it's necessary for me, right? So you don't necessarily want to, you don't have to. I see people do that, right? But it's less people than that don't, right? I usually very rarely see people's photos or resumes, but you can do that. But there's also could be pros or cons, right? Someone could have some kind of bias towards how you look or what you dress like or the kind of picture you took. Or they can be like, oh, this person looks very cool or really amazing. So there are pros and cons to using a photo. Um, but I usually don't. And when I edit resumes, I don't require someone to send me a photo of themselves. So that's usually the case. I have another question from Angela. Is it necessary to enter your ethnicity, race, or on a job application? So on a job application, I mean, I have in the past. I think companies do that for their own reasons to track their diversity or what have you, right? It's optional, so you don't necessarily need to do it, right? On my resume, I definitely never put my race or ethnicity. It's not something that, it comes up, right? That's not a measurement of my skill set or my background or anything like that. I have seen in other countries where I was editing resumes that a lot of people did that. And they did that just to show their kind of cultural background and what they bring. But especially in the US, I very rarely would ever do it. So I usually keep so when we talk about justification on your resume, I usually keep my resume left, yeah, left on the left side, right? Just clear. It's easier for your technical writing. And usually here in the US, we read that way usually. So those are I don't usually center anything on my resume. It's very rare that I do. My resume, I may center my skill section or things like that, but usually my resume is left justified if you look at it. So I have a question. What type of resume is the best for someone without any skills? If you don't have any like technical skills, you really want to, and most people have some technical skills, right? I mean, you're on the computer right now, right? So there's some level of you being like, oh, I know how to use Microsoft Word, or I know how to use Google, right? Depending on what job you're going for, that's going to be relevant to you in your job search. So those are important for you to understand that you have skills. Most people cannot go on without any kind of skills. So we either want to look at soft skills, right? Talking about your ability to communicate, interact. If you've had any type of job before, or if you've been in school, you're also going to have skills, right? That are relevant to studying, right? So you have things like, oh, okay, I know how to present, I know how to public speak, I know how to um some people say I know how to drive, right? Is a skill depending on whatever role you want. So I would actually step back and kind of see, okay, what can I look like? If it's your first job, you want to highlight anything that you have from school or any skills you've acquired from that time period. You're going to have a list of skills, and it's something I can email you about as well because it's everyone has some type of skill. We have another question. Do you have an example of a resume for someone who had a lot of technical skills and work experience? So yeah, I've had I've redone a number of resumes recently. I did a couple that were over 20 years of experience, right? So we were able still to fit into 2 pages, cut off some of the latter things that were post 10 years, right? That just weren't necessary. Most of the time, a company is not going to take into consideration the things you did 10 years ago because usually it's either outdated or not relevant to how things are exactly right now. And so the technical skills are very much categorized, and then kind of similar to how I showed in the example here. So I can send you an example, probably not that person's specific resume because all of those are confidential, but there are other opportunities to see what that could look like for you. So yeah, you can also, yeah, reach out to me on My Career Clarity. I can set up about a 15 to 20-minute chat with you all, which is a little less than my actual coaching sessions, but I'm willing to talk to some people that need any kind of quick guidance. Absolutely, Angela. So feel free if you want to have like a quick chat. I'm more than happy to chat with a number of individuals. I have a couple of open time slots for more of the general kind of workshop attendees there. So you can feel free to do that at here. I'll put in the link here. So with that being said, looks like we're at the whoops, sorry, I sent a direct message here. Let me put this to everyone. So with that being said, as we wrap up here, I wanted to just kind of end saying that I know that the market is very turbulent at the moment, right? But you all will get a job, right? There is a way, there are going to be multiple roles. There are a lot of openings right now. A lot of it is just going in with a dedicated plan, making sure that you're adequately prepared to do your job search. But most of all, you really need to have a good hold on your mentality and really take the time to do self-care when necessary, right? We don't want to get burnt out in our job search. We don't want to lose hope. You're going to find your next role. You're going to be in a position where, you're not concerned right now, right? So we want to stay diligent, stay consistent, and feel free to reach out if you have any questions or need any assistance. We will have additional workshops. We'll have Mastering the Job Hunt for those who haven't been on that, which will be next week. It was canceled tomorrow because I'm feeling a little cold coming on. But with that being said, thank you so much for sharing your Saturday morning or early afternoon with me. I really appreciate it. And I really wish you the best of luck. I will send a follow-up email so you can get a recording of this through that email. So just send that email back to me just so I know. So I hope you all take care and I appreciate you.